What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into The Who's live catalog, starting with their most recent release when I recorded this live at the Oval 1971, going backwards, now at Live at Hull 1970, a 2012 release of a complete show, Live at Hull in 1970. One of those shows when they were doing Tommy, not in its entirety, but for this early version of them almost in its entirety. One of the greatest live things in the history of ever, them doing Tommy live back in 70. I'm going to talk about this, review it, rant and rave about it because it's amazing, not play music from it, then rank it among the other 9 that I've already done. So, probably my only complaint about this is it's not the greatest sound in the world, but it's nowhere near the worst. Pretty solid for a 1970 show. Maybe a little bit rougher than Live at Leeds, but I mean, at this point in their career, any sort of rawness or roughness to the sound just adds to the complete raw energy that they bring on stage. Just, is any band more raw than this? And I'm thinking the opening song on here is Heaven and Hell. They come out with Heaven and Hell, and that's just a full-on oral assault. And I've seen a lot of live music in my life, seen a lot of heavy metal bands, seen a lot of punk bands, seen a lot of core bands, seen a lot of bands that they want to come out there and just kind of melt your face and blow you out of your socks from the beginning. But there is something like intentional about that. Obviously, it's intentional with The Who, but there is something that's like, yeah, we're going to bring it, and it's awesome. It's cool to go to a show and just be blown away from the beginning. But very few bands bring whatever it is Heaven and Hell brings as an opening to a show. I've heard heavier things. I've heard things that are heavier metal-wise or punk-wise or hard rock-wise, but nothing, and that goes almost for the entire show, has the immediacy, the just like punch you all over with our instruments oral assault that is Heaven and Hell. Pete's guitar playing is fantastic. John's bass playing is locked in. Keith is locked in as a drummer. Like, this is just, it doesn't get more raw or visceral than an opening Heaven and Hell. In fact, I was trying to go through all the bands I thought and think of any like opening song that like impacted me in the same way that this did. And I would say there were a couple shows, probably happened more than once, from Mars Volta back in the day, like the 2000s when they were just like starting to tour and come out. There were a couple Mars Volta shows where after the first like 10 minutes, I was just like, I'm exhausted, man. That was one of the most blistering experiences in my life. But very few bands come out with this much immediacy and power and rawness and energy. And it translates. What is this? I'm listening to this 55 years later, on a CD, that energy still translates. The opening Heaven and Hell. And I would argue that in the list of every song that The Who have ever opened a show with, Heaven and Hell ranks as number 1. There is no better opener. There is no better way to start a show. It is just absolute perfection. Next comes I Can't Explain, which is the perfect number 2 song. You take that energy, it's honed into like a pop perfect song. It's still a little aggressive, but it's a little more friendlier on the ears, but that energy is still sustained. And like, if you go I Can't Explain Heaven and Hell, doesn't have the same effect. You drop Heaven and Hell in the middle of a show, you're just like ruining whatever surrounds it because it's just going to devastate wherever because it's such a great song. But you come back with I Can't Explain, it is such a powerful 1-2 punch coming out of the gates. Raw intensity versus something that allows you to catch your breath. And I Can't Explain, while at the same time maintaining and sustaining the energy that Heaven and Hell sort of laid out there for you. Great opening 1-2 punch. But then, and here I think the first part of the show, the all pre-Tommy part of the show, is just some of the most perfectly sequenced, and the set list is perfect. Heaven and Hell knocks the wind out of you. I Can't Explain sustains the energy, but lets you sort of maintain, lets you catch your breath a little bit. Then we get like a 2-song combo that I think necessarily goes together. We get Fortune Teller, which has some darker energy. It's a little bit psyche at times, but it continues to evolve the show. We're not as raw as Heaven and Hell. We're not as ear-friendly as I Can't Explain. We're going somewhere a little darker, a little more mysterious. And then we follow that with Tattoo, which has more of a 60s pop vibe that is much lighter and more recognizable as a 60s pop vibe than, say, I Can't Explain is. But it's still got some dark vibes in it. So we're still kind of moving the direction of the show to like a different place, into like new territory. Just a fantastic 4-song combo to open the show. But then it gets better, because then we drop a Young Man Blues. And I'm not the biggest fan of Young Man Blues. I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of their blues covers. Not necessarily the performances, because by the end of each one, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm all in. I'm glad they did that. I just generally don't like the songs themselves. Kind of wish they had chosen different songs to like musically destroy, as they do this one in a good way, using that term in a good way. But the Young Man Blues is almost like, all right, we're going to get heavy again. Kind of like tap into that Heaven and Hell energy. We've shown you the other things that we can do, and we're just going to like jam out and like absolutely destroy. We got that like sort of Fleetwood Mac's Oh Well kind of stop start kind of jamming energy. We have like tension, then we let it go. We have tension, we let it go. Pete just completely goes off at one point. But it almost feels like in listening to this show, and this is one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent for setlist integrity. When a band releases a live album, I think they need to do everything possible to, 1, make sure all the songs are from the same show, 2, maintain the integrity of the original set list, because I think energy is necessarily built. And I think Heaven and Hell brings some tension that isn't immediately released. I Can't Explain doesn't release it. Fortune Teller doesn't release it. Tattoo doesn't release it. But when we get to Young Man Blues and Pete just goes off, I feel like that tension is finally being let go. And like we're able to like, okay, we're just going to jam out. We get rid of that just kind of dark tension that dominates the early part of the show in a really, really healthy way. And it's an awesome sort of bow on the first half of the show. After this, we get into Pete Townshend's sort of, I'm going to make a musical statement and set you up for the latter half of the show with 4 songs that I think work really well as a sequence of songs. We open up with Substitute, one of the best songs The Who have ever done, bar none. An absolute perfect song, works perfectly after the aggressiveness of Young Man Blues. Just, it's pure power pop. Kind of taps into the things they were doing with I Can't Explain. It's a little bit of that pop energy in Fortune Teller and Tattoo. But this is that energy perfected. Like Substitute is like a perfect 60s pop song. Then we go to Happy Jack, which is a little bit sillier, a lot more of like a 60s British pop song, maybe a little more mid-60s. But there's a subversive element to the lyrics. And so Pete is almost like, Substitute's my perfect pop song. I could also write other perfect pop songs, but that kind of bores me. So we're going to get some subversive lyrics with Happy Jack. And let's double down on that, because I'm a Boy is next, which is another just great pop song. The performance is fantastic, but we get lyrics which seem way ahead of their time. We definitely aren't this progressive here in the United States with lyrics like this here in 2025. And so Pete takes Substitute, continues on that, like, I can write a perfect pop song, but I'm going to subvert the lyrics because that's who I am. And then after we get I'm a Boy, we get a quick one while he's away. All 8+ minutes of that. And Pete's pretty much like, those pop songs we just did that are just absolutely perfect, and I could probably write those in my sleep and we could have a bunch of hit singles. No. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm going to do a quick one while he's away. I'm going to give you like 4 different songs. There's going to be an engine driver in there. There's going to be this epic ending in there, all this crazy stuff. It's kind of a mess, but it's my beautiful pop mess. And you're going to find moments of absolute beauty in this thing. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. And that's how the first portion of the show ends. Because after that, in real time, they play Tommy in its entirety. Now, on the CD release, in order to fit Tommy in its entirety on one disc, the encores come next. So if you're listening to the actual CD after a quick one while he's away, you're going to get the 3 encores, which are Summertime Blues, which is just awesome. They're killing this. They know how to do this. This is a pretty tight, efficient version of this. You're going to get a shaking all over. Great vocal performance on this one. Another one that's just, they're locked in. The jams are fluid, high energy, absolutely perfect. And then you're going to get a 15-minute My Generation, in which they quote Tommy a couple times. Pete goes off. They quote Tommy. Pete goes off again. They bring it down. There's a cool psych jam. There's a well, all right quote in there. Like I think Daltrey, maybe one of them sings like, well, all right. I think it's Daltrey. Not feeling too good myself. We get a Sparks tease. We get all kinds of Tommy mixed in with jams, mixed in with them bringing the energy up, bringing it back down. We just get a 15-minute My Generation that's all over the map, that's quoting a bunch of things. It's got highs, it's got lows, it's super dynamic. It's just pure rock and roll indulgence to close out the show. That's what you're going to hear after a quick one while he's away, if you're listening to it on CD. In the actual show, though, Tommy followed a quick one. And so to me, that's a further part of the narrative that Pete's trying to tell. It's like, oh, I did all these pop songs. I'm going to drop an 8.5-minute opus because that's more of what I'm interested in. But now we're going to play like 45 minutes to an hour of music that's from a concept album that we're working on, because that 8.5-minute little thing, that's nothing. Put on your seatbelts, people. We're taking you for a ride. And we get Tommy. And Tommy live in 1970, I just don't think there's anything much better than that. They don't have extra horn players. They don't have extra keyboards. There's no extra stuff. It's just them bringing this live to the stage. And the fact that they can do something as powerful of overture, as something as like momentum building as Pinball Wizard, as something as epically set closing as We're Not Gonna Take It, See Me, Hear Me, Feel Me. Like the variety of music they present in this like course of the songs that they do is just amazing. We get the overture, which is just, what can this band not do? It just sounds so huge, so fantastic. Pete gets to be indulgent towards the end and gets to kind of riff and play around on the guitar before they go into, before Daltrey steps up and sings. We get It's a Boy, and the transition from the overture into It's a Boy into 1921 live. It's so perfect. The melody of 1921, say it's gonna be a good year. Like, we have all this really heavy music. We have Moon going crazy. We have Entwistle's bass lines. We have Pete just being super indulgent on the guitar. And then we get these absolutely pure pop nuggets. 1921, that melody is just amazing. Christmas, the melodies in Christmas. It's like the verse, perfect. The bridge, perfect. The chorus, perfect. It's just a master class in how to write melodies. The melody in Go to the Mirror, another one where we have these series of songs which are like short little snippets to move the narrative along of Tommy. And then you get a melody in Go to the Mirror that's just like absolutely timeless. So what do you get for the Tommy? You get the overture, It's a Boy, 1921, Amazing Journey, that downshift, about 3.5 minutes into Amazing Journey when they go into like setup for the takeoff into Sparks. Just so monstrous and just so absolutely kind of nasty in a good way. Absolutely fantastic. Sparks is a beast. Eyesight to the Blind, great cover song. We get Christmas with just those melodic hooks that go on for days. The Acid Queen feels a little understated, but it kind of works for the song. Then we got a Pinball Wizard. Do You Think It's All Right? Fiddle about, fiddle about. There is a world in which there's a riff. There's like It's almost like a doom riff that lurks in the back of Fiddle About. It's like I think both the bass and Pete are playing it at times, but it's dark, and you can tell that the song is like a menacing song because of that riff. There is a world in which Pete decided that Fiddle About should be an instrumental, and that the title of the song and the music alone would kind of set us up for the fact that something inappropriate was happening in the song, because it's rough to hear grown adults singing "Fiddle About." I understand it's an opera. I understand it's moving the plot along, but especially in later years when they're singing about this, it makes it rough. And I think there was a way to do this as an instrumental where that you still understand what's trying to be conveyed through the music, because it is dark. But the music to Fiddle About is fantastic. I always just have a rough time with him singing this live. I don't know why it works on the album, but it does. Tommy, Can You Hear Me? There's a Doctor. Short little snippet of that. Go to the Mirror, which is so fantastic. It's almost like a glass of water at this point when you go through all these darker little like short snippets to move the plot along. The Go to the Mirror is kind of like, okay, we got a glass of water. We got some pure melody. Smash the Mirror, Miracle Cure, Sally Simpson, which brings in a little more of that calmer pop. And then I'm Free, which is sort of a last needed sort of kind of like, I don't know if it's a shot of adrenaline or it's like a whiskey shot or it's some little like quick shot before we ramp up for the closing Tommy's Holiday Camp into the epic We're Not Gonna Take It. Great performance of Tommy, as always, from 1970. Absolutely fantastic. This is an amazing, amazing show. I do think if you're going to listen to it and it doesn't bother you too much, after you do a quick one while he's away, listen to Tommy and then go listen to the encores, because I think those encores just resonate a little more after you've gone through the whole Tommy experience and you have the short song, you have the more tightly constrained songs, because then you end with like Summertime Blues, Shaking All Over, My Generation, where the band is just jamming. They're just going off. They're strutting their stuff. They're being a little more carefree and wild and just like pushing the envelope of aggression in like the best way possible. That would be my recommended listening experience, but it makes it hard because of the discs. But anyways, absolutely, absolutely amazing. Where would I rank this if I had to rank it among all the other ones I've done so far? It is my number one, clearly. Though that 68 show, all of those 71 shows are just magical and perfect. It really is just, I like the complete Tommies, and I do think the jamming, the 68 jamming is so over the top indulgent, like you have to applaud it. But this is, I don't know, I just think this is special. And I think that first disc from Heaven and Hell through a quick one while he's away, I think Townsend has structured these songs and tells almost a perfect story, a perfect narrative. It takes you on a roller coaster ride that goes somewhere. Every song moves the narrative along. A fantastic listen. But yeah, that's all I got. Those are my thoughts on this. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you think of this album. And yeah, go listen to it if you haven't. It's incredible. That's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.